Certainly can provide that. Canadians and their cheap laughs.
How much is a laugh in Canada these days?
Probably about 10 Monopoly dollars.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
How does that convert to freedom units? How many Monopoly dollars to a
Well, everyone knows
freedom
that
dollar?
freedom dollars are worth more than Canadian dollars.
Yeah.
So it's 15 freedom dollars.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Because it's bigger number. That means it's worth more.
Yep.
Right, exactly.
It's like that famous, I forget which restaurant chain it was. There were two burger, fast food joints. And, one of them was doing a quarter-pound burger that was doing numbers. And so the other one was like, I'm going to sell the third-pound burger for the same price. And
think
the
that
third,
was
the
that
third-pound
Wendy's thing?
burger did not sell at all. Because Americans thought the quarter-pound was bigger.
Because the 4, and they didn't
4 is
think
bigger
about,
than 3.
Yeah, they didn't think
They
about
failed to grasp
fractions.
the basic concept of division.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Where bigger units in the bottom means smaller.
That sounds like.
I think it would have been a McDonald's to Burger King type thing. Or
I think
McDonald's or
A&W
Wendy's.
was the one that ran the
A&W.
third pound.
Because Mickey D's has the quarter pounder.
Yeah. I mean, that's the power of branding, too.
Oh yeah.
I'll get a quarter pounder. What are you going to say? Third pounder?
Double quarter pounder. How about that?
That's half pounder.
Right, but it's 2 different quarter pounders.
It's 2 quarter pounders though,
2 quarter pounders.
which are probably more like a fifth of
I
a
suppose
pound
if
in
you-
reality once they're
if you-
cooked down and all the grease removed.
If you did a man on the street, poll of what's bigger, a half pounder or a quarter pounder, I wonder what sort of results you'd get.
It'd probably get pretty even split of people who actually paid attention in math class and people who are kind of dumb.
Dang it, we're doing banter on McDonald's again.
It just happened that way.
That's true.
This is natural.
Yeah.
We're not forcing anything.
I love that every time I call out the bits or what we're doing on the podcast, you guys said it's natural. We're doing this naturally.
None of this is scripted, James.
It's organic.
So don't go off topic and stick to the non-existent script.
Oh, man.
You know what I never realized I missed until this last couple weeks?
What's that?
I miss having people willing to play Smash Brothers with me semi-regularly. There's a couple weeks ago at work, there was a guy, we were just kind of talking, and Smash Bros came up as a topic in and amongst other video games. And I'm like, I've got a Switch, I could bring
We
it
used to
in.
go to the club on campus, right?
Yes. And there were other people who were actually willing to sit down and play with me. But no, I've been bringing it to work last couple of weeks, and if we got some time before the plane comes in, we fire up a couple matches, and I kick their butts.
Nice.
But it's I'm at least he's good natured about it. And
So is this how you haze the new people now?
no, these are people that have worked here for a while and just never realized we wanted to play Smash Bros. But I have blown his mind about a couple of things. He did not know, for instance, there's the villager. He does the move where he plants the tree, then waters it, then it grows, and then he chops it down, and it's a whole thing. Mm-hmm. We were doing a villager ditto match where we were both villager, and he immediately starts by growing the tree and chopping it down. I run up and put the tree in my pocket as it falls
he didn't
down,
know about
and
that.
he didn't know you could do that. And I do that, and instantly I fill him with the fear of God. It's great. So no, that's been kind of fun for as often as there's been time before the plane, and it's this is the first time in a while where we've both gone random a couple of times and just played with who came up. Which, yeah, I haven't had a round of Smash where we both just sit down and pick random and roll with it. I don't know. Because when I go home, Simon, has a couple of characters. Well, he doesn't have access to it regularly, so he has a couple of characters he wants to get good at and drills at. He likes Incineroar, the Pokemon. He also likes Pyra and Mithra from Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And so those are the characters he primarily plays, and I play a lot of the same characters over and over because he's like, no, I can get you this time. I figured you out.
Mm-hmm.
He plays me like I'm the final boss of Smash Bros. And
yeah, well, I mean, is he wrong?
In my house, no. In the world, well, in my house, yes. In the
obviously.
world, no.
Right, obviously.
I'm a big fish in a tiny pond.
Yeah.
Like I'm good enough where my friends don't want to play with me anymore, but I'm not good enough to actually have meaningful competition elsewhere.
Yeah. That was a sort of fear of God moment I had last night. So I've been playing Jedi I Survived Falling Over.
Uh-huh.
And so there's you can fight a Rancor. in this
Heck
one
yeah.
spot, which is terrifying enough. And then there's like, if you remember, like every once in a while you come across like these sort of like force dream challenges or whatever in the game. 2 Rancors.
Oh, baby.
Eventually I got it. But it
it's
took
like
a while.
It's like that boss rush that you unlock in the Force stream afterwards, where you like work your way up through the bosses, and then like I think eventually at the end, Darth Vader is like the final boss of like the dual boss rush.
Yeah. So eventually I was able to figure out. Fortunately, like just the way their attack patterns work, it sort of like recharges a bit. So, but you know how they have like they turn red and there's like the unblockable attack. That is the unblockable attack is it'll dash at you and grab you and eat you. So you can't survive. So there's so many times where I get it like down to like a third pounder of health. And it would eat me like over and over again until finally I was like, oh, wait a minute. I have this force ability I'm not using. You build up your meter or whatever. And you can use like this special attack. And so that got me over the hump. But it was very, very terrifying. Like, oh, I wonder what this... Oh, no.
Oh, there's 2.
Defeat all the enemies, because there's one where it's like, kind of like a rush of different combinations of enemies. And I'm like, this had better be just these 2 Rancors.
This is getting out of hand.
Yeah.
Now there are 2 of them.
Now there are 2 of them.
I'm very glad that you're getting your toes into the Souls-like genre.
Yeah.
So that maybe someday I can get you to
Perhaps.
play Dark Souls.
I think you might be most easily convinced to play Elden Ring before Dark Souls.
Yeah.
I think mechanically Elden Ring is really tough. Like if it's the first Souls game you've ever played, it just is what it is.
Yeah.
But I really think you should play them in the order they came out. Because it's like the mechanical progression of the games is... It's fun to be punished for all of your very learned behavior from the previous game.
Sure.
And have to learn to adapt to the new style of each successive game.
I guess I skipped ahead a little bit from going from Dark Souls 1 to Bloodborne.
Well, 2 is very similar to 1.
Okay.
That doesn't change a lot.
And Bloodborne's pretty different from all the Dark Souls games as I understand them. So.
Bloodborne feels more similar to me, feels more similar to Dark Souls 1 than 3 does.
Interesting. So I might actually be doing a mechanical progression properly.
Yes.
Neat.
Like Dark Souls, Bloodborne it's different.
Did you finish Bloodborne?
No, we're still working on it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's like it really feels like that middle point, because going from 1 to 2 to 3, I'm like, whoa, this is wildly different. But Bloodborne feels like that.
Bloodborne
that
was
middle point.
what, 2015?
15. Mm-hmm.
And 3 was 16. 17.
Yeah, no. Bloodborne was
earlier?
14. 3 was 15.
Okay. So that was the order in which they were made anyway.
Right.
And Sekiro Shadows Die Twice was between 3 and Elden Ring, although it might have been doing its own different-ish thing.
It's substantially different.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of outside of the...
When Demon Souls was sort of like the first...
The original Demon Souls was before Dark Souls 1.
Gotcha. And then they made the remake.
And I think actually
Or the remaster.
FromSoft had made previously a game on like PS1 that was even proto Dark Souls. I forget what it was called, but I saw a video of like the Dark Souls before Dark Souls or whatever.
Yeah.
kind of like you have Bioshock and then System Shock and all that stuff.
Speaking of Bioshock, apparently Bioshock has DLC.
Oh, like
Bioshock 1 has DLC.
Oh,
and it's apparently quite good. And I had no idea.
Yeah,
I guess I'd never played that.
Either.
Huh.
Is it on Steam?
I'm sure.
Honestly, if you bought the Steam version within the last 8 years, it might have had the version with the DLC included.
It probably did. If you got the special edition, I'm sure it
I
does.
might have to dip my toes back into that water around
Rapture.
Yeah. The thing I've noticed though about Fallen Order is that with difficult games, my psyche is much more calm when I'm not being watched. Because immediately Bryant came and watched one of the boss fights I was doing, and I got almost to the end and then I died. I was like, crap, well, I almost did it without dying, Bryant. Thanks for coming in and watching and ruining it. But I mean, he wasn't commenting or doing, being obnoxious or anything. It was just sort of that pressure of oh crap, he's watching me. I gotta not look like a goof.
See, I grew up with people looking over my shoulder while I play the whole time, so it doesn't matter to me either way. I'll just throw myself at the boss over and over again, regardless. There's some I'm currently playing through a couple of games, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night and the Mega Man Battle Network games, and there's some tough boss fights in there, and they're fun. But I just keep throwing myself at them over and over again, dying every time. It's I learn a little more every time, and they're great. But I just like hard games, so.
Yeah, that was sort of the... last night, I finished the main story, and, you explore the...
Yeah, there's a bunch of bonus stuff you can find.
Yeah, so I came across I guess you could call it, sort of like an obstacle course type deal.
Sure.
But what it is that they have this mechanic where you double jump and then you go through this green ray shield that recharges your dash.
Oh, sure.
And so there's no platform to land on. It's all wall run.
You got to chain the runs
jumping.
and dashes and double
Yes,
jump.
it is kind of janky. It works, but it's super janky. And I was throwing myself at this thing over and over and over again. All right, that's it. I'm going to bed.
Congratulations, you played Celeste in 3D.
I can't even imagine that.
It's basically that. Wall clings until you run out of stamina, then you jump and grab the crystal that recharges your dash, and you dash again. It's basically that.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of throwing yourself at something over and over and dying over and over again.
Hey. Perfect. We're the Flaming Papists. I'm James.
I'm Nathan.
And I'm Riley.
And we're doing a Philmosophical today about the Edge of Tomorrow, or I guess Live, Die, Repeat, depending on
when you watched it.
Yeah.
In a world where one man will decide whether to pull a lever and kill one man, or not pull a lever and allow 5 people to die, find out in Philmosophical.
So yeah, I think the theatrical release was Live, Die, Repeat, and then although I could I swear at some point the marketing was Edge of Tomorrow, Live, Die, Repeat is the subtitle or something.
Something like that.
I don't know. Regardless.
The funny thing is, I feel like the movie must have started out as somebody was like, what if you know when you're playing a video game and you keep dying in a level and you memorize the patterns and you get better at it? What if somebody did that in real life? And then they made a movie.
But aliens.
Well, that's how you explain what happened.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's getting ahead of ourselves a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, the basic storyline is there's aliens invade Earth and are overwhelming humanity's armies. And so there's this sort of... they managed to see a small bit of success at a battle in Verdun, France. And a particular young soldier, woman heroine, they call the Angel of Verdun for her success. And so... the army is scanning the coast of France and noticing on Normandy, in sort of a throwback to World War II, that that doesn't look like a whole lot of alien activity. So they're going to try to reinvade Europe and try to, because it starts in Europe, and so retake the Europe from the aliens. So there's this major who's sort of a PR guy. not really an actual soldier.
A communications major, if you will.
Yeah, yeah, he's the communications major. He joined the army just to because his like PR firm went under or something like that.
Something like that.
It's something to do. And so the head general from cavalry, Brendan Gleeson, is like, all right, so I'm the general in charge of this invasion. I want you to be like an embedded reporter to like sort of sell the PR of this invasion to people to sort of get past the fact that a lot of people are probably going to die from this.
Also on the front lines, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not like actually, I didn't actually join to fight. I'm here to kind of do my thing and not actually fight.
Squeak
like,
by
too
on
bad
the down low.
you're fighting, and he tries to get out of it and gets tased and demoted and sent to the front as a recruit the day before
the big invasion.
Attack. So there's like this verbose sergeant and like a ragtag squad he's assigned to, and so they get into these helicopter things and they fly off to the beach, and things immediately go to heck right away. Like the aliens are just overwhelming them. People are dying left and right.
They shouldn't know they're coming from this direction, but they get sniped in midair and are ambushed basically.
Yeah. The aliens knew they were coming and are just slaughtering them. So he's Tom Cruise. What is the name of the guy? I say his name over and over again in the movie. Anyway,
Tom Cruise.
Well, yeah, like
Call him
Tom Cruise. He's like John Wayne. He's just himself in every movie.
Tom Cruise is not just an immediate, best in the world at his business thing.
No, he doesn't even know how to turn the safety off on his gun, on his power suit thing. So he's wandering around the beach just trying to survive, watching people die left and right. And this big blue alien comes up to him, and he manages to turn the safety on he
uses a claymore.
Yeah, he uses a claymore to blow it up, and its blood comes out and soaks him in it and melts his face off, and he dies. And then he wakes up on the morning where he wakes up on top of the pile of like duffel bags or whatever, like he did the day before, and everything exactly like the day before is happening like it did. So he's reliving the same day over again. And after a couple additional times I think the first time on the beach he notices the famous Angel of Verdun on the beach. They sort of look at each other and she gets killed and then he dies and the day resets. So he starts to figure out, okay, this day is repeating. I'm going to try doing things a little different and to varying levels of success. On one of these attempts, he gets in touch with the Angel of Verdun lady and she's like, when you wake up, find me. And then they get killed and he wakes up again on the first day. So he's through a couple of mishaps manages to escape, because basically this sergeant and the squad are put in charge of making sure he doesn't desert and things like that. So he manages to sneak away from them and find her. What are the names of these people?
William Cage is Tom Cruise.
Cage, yep.
And then
Cruise.
Rita is the name of the angel.
So he manages to find Rita working out in the middle of a shooting range, simulating the aliens. And he's like, hey, you said when I wake up to come find me. And she's
you said that tomorrow when you die.
Yep. And she's like, okay, come with me. And so over the course of a few lives and deaths, we learned that when at the Battle of Verdun, Rita also had the blue alien called the Alpha blood get all over her, which connects her to like the alien hive mind's nervous system, and the mother brain, if you will, has the power to reset to
turn back time and reset a day
to the good old days. So, and that's how they keep winning, is by like starting over. It's like when you're trying to play Link Between Worlds on the Switch, and you can just rewind every time the worm thing kills you.
It's Link to the Past.
Link
on
to the
Switch.
Past. Yeah.
Between Worlds is different. You can't play that one on Switch.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
Not like I did that or anything at all.
No, you didn't abuse the rewind and save state feature on the Nintendo Switch Online.
Certainly
Absolutely not.
So this alien creature is definitely abusing that feature and using it to defeat humanity. But basically, the blue aliens are called alphas, and so she killed an alpha, got its blood on her, and she, by this connection to the mother brain, manages to, the Omega, I guess as they call it, manages to be able to reset time when she dies. Except for
and that's how
on one of her they won the Battle of Verdun, but she was wounded and didn't die and reset the day. And so somebody gave her a blood transfusion, and because it's like the power resides in the blood or whatever, she loses the power. So she's like, okay, so you're like me before, or you're like me before I lost the power. Okay. So they talk to this sort of scientist who nobody believes that figured out the way the aliens work. And they're like, all right, we have to come up with some sort of plan to find... Okay, after a certain number of deaths, you'll see the cutscene that shows you where the alien is. Kind of like in Grounded. Except for not at all. Anyway, so eventually he does see a vision. It's like, okay, it's in this dam in Germany. And so they're figuring out how to survive the beach.
They do a whole bunch of like reruns of the day to like see how far they can get, see if they can make it to the
Rita sort of trains him
dam.
how to fight and be a good soldier and stuff, and kills him over and over again every time he gets injured because wanting to avoid the blood transfusion thing. So eventually they do manage to get off the beach and get inland a little bit, but they run into this farmhouse where there's a helicopter, and Cage is like, okay, every time we get to this helicopter, you die, and there's nothing I can do to fix that. So we need to come up with a different plan.
Because I've been spending more time with you than you've been spending with me, so I'm getting kind of attached to you and kind of like you, and every time we interact, you reveal a little more about yourself as a person, and I'm kind of into that.
Yeah, every time we touch, I feel
get this
ecstatic.
feeling, and every time...
Because
I swear I could fly.
I can feel my heart beat fast.
I want this to last. I need you in my life.
So they're like, all right, well, what if instead we go straight to the general and be like, hey, there's this device that connects us.
Actually, no.
Experimental
What
device.
happens is
They go to the dam.
he goes to the dam. He makes it to the dam,
Omega
and nothing's
isn't
there.
And there's just like a couple of aliens being there trying to keep him from killing himself and resetting the day. So the Omega's sort of aware of who he is.
And has planted those seeds in his mind of, ooh, go here. Which is also what happened to Rita, because she went to where her visions led her. It wasn't there. And I believe that's where she got injured enough.
The alien allowed humanity to think it won the Battle of Verdun so it could bait them into like an all-out attack and like kill them all and then take over the world. So that's what they're dealing with. I forget how exactly they figure out where the alien is.
Well, that's the
mother
device
brain
the scientist was working on.
Yep. So that the scientist was sort of, everybody was like, nah, you're crazy. And so they hid his device in a locker conveniently in the general's office. So they go to the general's office after a bunch of attempts managed to get the device from him. But it was a trick by him.
They aced the
They're
stealth
hunted down
section.
by the military police, and they get into a car chase, managed to shove the thing in his leg and connect him and figure out where the mother brain is. It's under the Louvre in France. Unfortunately, because they jammed this thing in his leg, he starts to bleed out. They
get in a car crash during the chase.
Crash. Yeah.
Rita gets injured first, so she can't shoot him in the head to reset the day.
Yep. And so he passes out. They get captured, and they give him a blood transfusion. He's lost the power. Oh no.
Oh no.
And so
We've got one shot to get it right.
Yep. So they're like, okay, well, this is our last chance to do this. So let's get our ragtag squad together, because I might be able to convince them that I know the future and get them to follow us for some reason. So
Not us, her, because she's the cool lady that people follow.
Yeah. So they managed to recruit the squad and head off towards the Louvre, and their ship crashes, and they have to fight through a bunch of aliens to get to it, and eventually one by one they all get killed.
It's
Until
down to
finally Cage has got a a bandolier of grenades that he manages to drop on the mother alien Omega thing before he dies, and blows it up and gets some of the Omega's blood on it. This time, he wakes up on the day before the invasion, where like before
when he's arriving to meet with the general in the opening scene,
and like somehow the aliens are all dead. We Phantom Menace the aliens, ladies and gentlemen. It worked. All the people aren't dead because they haven't died yet, but they did, but they're not. Timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly stuff. We won. So Cage is like, cool, I'm going to go say hi to the lady who doesn't know me again.
and that's where the film ends.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a take on sort of the Groundhog's Day phenomena as it's come to be known. Resetting the day over and over, same day over and over again. This is it came out in 2014, so it only took me 10 years to watch this movie. It's a good popcorn Tom Cruise action flick, and it makes it as action movies go. It makes good use of the time loop to make it for an interesting action movie, I would say, compared to like your average. I mean, I've certainly seen trailers for worse applications of the Groundhog's Day effects.
I mean, even just the training montage of him getting good at the battle it's kind of fun to watch him go through.
It's best. Were we recording when we talked about? Or no? Were we saying it was kind of like a video?
Yeah, I just said that. Where it's
Yeah.
I said that at the top of before we.
That's sort of the
this.
best way to understand the way this movie approaches it, kind of.
Right.
I mean, it's not a video game movie or anything like that.
No, but it's probably the most video gamey movie I've seen in a while.
Yeah. It's got the themes in common with Groundhog's Day, where it's like, okay, you relive the same day over and over. You fall in love with a lady. You learn to be a better person and less selfish and more selfless as time goes on. We did a podcast on Groundhog's Day.
Groundhog Day. It's just the day.
Yeah.
It's not his day. It's just the day.
And there are not multiple groundhogs.
Huh? Groundhog
Day.
G''S
No,
day?
it's just Groundhog. There isn't.
Is it just Groundhog Day?
It is just Groundhog Day.
Well,
this is a
Groundhog
common
Day.
misconception. It's Groundhog Day.
There's no possessive.
It's like Labor Day. It's not Labor's Day.
Well, yeah, but is it Valentine's Day or Valentine's Day?
It's
Because that's St. Valentine's Day. It's a
Yeah.
person's day,
Fair enough.
not a groundhog's.
But it's not the Groundhog's Day, but
It's
the
not the Groundhog's Day. It's the day that the groundhog comes
The day
out.
of the groundhog.
It's the human's day. They're just manipulating the groundhog.
Gotcha. Anyway, so
Yes, it employs the same ideas in a certain extent. I found a couple of things interesting. One was that Tom Cruise wasn't immediately a badass like he is in every other movie he's in. He was kind of a dumb klutz, and he was kind of a schmuck at the beginning. He was a coward and didn't want to, do his responsibility to carry out his duty for the world to document this invasion. And it doesn't really say why. Like, eventually he kind of just gets over it, is my impression. Like, it's not like, man, I've got to be better so that I can save the world. It's like, this is just life now. Like, I have this. I'm just going to do it. So in that respect, it's not as much of a virtuous growth as it is like this is just the circumstances of life and I'm going to deal with it.
Although one thing I kind of found interesting is that over the course of his repeating the day, he starts out trying to before he reaches out to Rita and finds her help, he starts by trying to save everybody and do the best day he can. Over the course of his repeated trials, he grows very callous and starts kind of ignoring people in need of his help and just trying to survive himself and see as far as he can go. But over the course of the film, he gets to know Rita and starts to value her as a person. And at the end, when he's got one shot left, and he can't reset time.
He has to
Suddenly-
allow her to sacrifice herself so he can make it.
And suddenly everybody else on his team are treated with more dignity. Each of their deaths is given a little heroic send-off as they inch closer to their goal. So there was kind of at the end he gained or at least the movie framed him as getting a
Well, I mean, at this point,
respect
like he
for
only
the
has
sacrifice of war.
He's now a normal person who only has one shot at this, like everyone else.
Exact, just like everybody. Yeah, and the fact that we only have one shot, and that's part of what makes our lives so valuable, was kind of a theme it landed on at the end, I feel like.
Yeah.
Also interesting to note that the love interest in Groundhog Day was also named Rita.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it's I feel like it's pretty self-awarely
Right.
using the idea and the themes, but
Yeah, they walked into it knowing, like, okay, people know Groundhog Day. That it's interesting.
Had they been more self-aware, the Omega would have been a scary moon face.
Oh gosh. See, my brain went to the old French movie where like they
Oh,
like,
yeah,
send
where
the
the-
rocket
the-
and it's just like the rocket's just sitting like jutting
its
out of its
eyeball?
eye. Yeah. Probably not the same image at all.
No,
But
I wonder if somebody's made that mod for Majora's Mask. Kind of a weird reference, but
like Trip to the Moon.
like Trip to the Moon, but it's just like there with the rocket in its eyeball.
Except for the moon is making Trip to the Ground.
right, exactly.
It would be really funny if that Moonfall disaster movie came out. If that was like, if just blatantly ripped off Majora's
Well,
Mask.
they would need to work in the 3-day time loop thing.
Right. Yeah.
Then there's the boiling the monkey alive.
It's like, wait. So this the monkey just dies. Like in almost every other version of the day you do, the monkey just dies.
Don't think about it too much.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that was
back
like the first thing I thought about.
Yep.
It's like, wait, so they just let the monkey go, but we didn't save him. Like he's dead. He boiled anyway. So I suppose Majora's Mask is another instance of like sort of the time loop
With like slightly
device
different
and
themes.
storytelling. Right. Yeah. I mean,
That was
I mean,
more.
Link isn't a hole that turns into a nice person
No.
because he's already had Ocarina of Time happen and his whole hero's journey arc.
No,
and stuff.
that game is actually more about people's reaction to impending doom and the existential threat of
There's certainly a lot of
annihilation.
existential dread in that game.
It's what sets it apart and makes it great, in my opinion. Anyway, this is about.
this episode is really a kind of a comparison because there's not enough meat to Edge of Tomorrow to really be its own thing.
Yeah. They're the most annoying. I haven't watched any of these movies, but I feel like there's been 3 or 4 in the last few years that are like rom-com time loops.
There's a short segment in Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas where Huey, Dewey, and Louie have such a great Christmas day that they wish it was Christmas every day because they're greedy little kids that want to have that all the time. And so there's a bit of a time loop thing going on where the aunt shows up and gives them all big wet kisses every day, and they sing carols every day, and they get the exact same toys every day, but it gets kind of repetitive over time, and they're like, wait a minute, we've been living Christmas all about us. It's about giving, it's about family and stuff.
Sure,
so
yeah.
we should stop thinking inward and start thinking outward and actually, singing Christmas carols with them instead of running off to play with the toys immediately, that kind of a thing.
Sure.
Anyway, that's like one of the other applications of that, the time loop trope that I've found, which has like basically the same themes except for meaning of Christmas instead of meaning of life.
Yeah. So it's almost like it's like Freaky Friday in that it's a subgenre of films that use the same concepts to varying levels of success. Yeah.
And it's kind of a simple like concept. What would happen if you lived the same day again?
Yep.
Like there's so many times where you're like, what if I could do that all again? And it asks the question, well, what if you could do it all again? But instead of could, you had to because you were forced into it.
Mm-hmm.
And where do you go from there?
Yeah, it's interesting, like the twist on it, that it's like a alien, like a malignant force outside of you that you have to battle against, that's manipulating time and rigging the game and trying to overcome that. That I feel like was an interesting like twist,
Because it's like it was such an unstoppable
'Cause
force.
we don't really know
because
why in Groundhog Day the day just resets, but it does.
right, and this being a sci-fi action flick, it had to give a sci-fi answer to it, and it also gives an explanation to why the alien force spread so quickly and so prolifically, and then because it had every time an alpha died, it reset the day. It'd be like, if we can keep these key pawns not dead, if we can we can rewind a couple moves back, we can win this very easily. So yeah, it offered a sci-fi explanation to it instead of it just being some mystic force set upon one individual for the sake of learning a lesson.
And it's interesting to have like a humanity needing to outwit a malignant force instead of just like horde of aliens and blue sky beam battle.
Get
Or
outplayed,
like
aliens.
Yeah, or like zombie type things, you know, where it's just like, sure, you have the existential dread and complete threat to the existence of humanity, but in this case, it's like, okay, there's like this intelligence we have to battle against.
But also like
an otherworldly power.
The intelligence is the one thing that you have to kill.
Yep.
It's like in Star Wars 1, where you shoot down
Right.
the droid control ship and all the droids die, boom, we win. Or in
this case, it's a hive mind. So like
well, yeah,
Avengers.
Well, it's like Avengers. It's also like Ender's Game,
Yep.
where you take out the alien queen and boom, they all disperse. You kill the mother brain and the planet self-destructs and you escape and boom, no more problems. It's
a very common trope. Yeah.
It's a very common sci-fi
But very
trope.
compelling. I mean, Lord of the Rings, heck, even like you
Oh, yeah.
destroy the ring and the big bad's gone. You know.
Having a singular ultimate goal gives a story focus.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So.
And if you're just doing a 2-hour movie where Tom Cruise shoots got aliens, having that kind of goal-based narrative works.
I've come to appreciate Tom Cruise action flicks as just like dumb fun. With the Mission Impossible series and then this movie and, you know, like the Top Gun films. So it's like I know what they are going into it, like not expecting high cinema. This thing managed to do some interesting things. It's like, I suppose we'll get into like the analysis, but yeah, I guess were there any other like things we wanted to try to contrast with like Groundhog Day or other?
Not,
I know we had
not
some
especially,
thoughts.
but I do
We had
want
some thoughts
to
right after
rant
we
about
watched
Tom
it.
Cruise.
Okay,
Ever since I heard
not Scientology
Christian
related?
Bale, that too, but
Okay,
Christian Bale said like his inspiration for American Psycho and the way he played that role was this one interview that Tom Cruise did on Letterman, and his just like dead looking eyes, and I can't unsee it.
Sure.
It's like, you know, he has all this, you know, actor technique and does the facial expressions and delivers the lines, and you just look at his eyes and like there's nothing in there. There's no soul in there, like, and I can't unsee it now.
Sure. And like it's also formulaic that he's just kind of going through the motions.
And that feels like a lot of his movies are just very standard, tropey, formulaic. This one being an exception to a certain extent.
it's a refreshing twist on the 20 teens action flick.
But even then, there's like a lot of through lines to your common like action flicks / military action film, because this was like military adjacent, being the fact that he's a soldier. It wasn't like World War II
Sci-fi
or
power
like
suits
Black Hawk
were-
Down or whatever. But
Sci-fi power suits were the thing. I guess around that time.
yeah, and this one was a kind of more grounded take on them. It wasn't quite Iron Man or Halo.
It's like an exoskeleton.
Right. And but you got these, these are the American soldiers, kind of patriotic themes of one-man army heroism, which are just kind of what those action films are.
Yeah.
And like there's obviously good things about, elevating that kind of heroism and that kind of desire to, protect others, but
People
also
need a symbol.
it's
Yeah.
but it's also just kind of very simple and kind of shallow and misses some of the deeper realities of those scenarios,
Sure.
Which, I mean,
Although it is very, it gets to the point.
yeah.
It doesn't overstay its welcome. Sometimes films try to strike at that depth, but then fail at the pacing. Things like that. But yeah, it's interesting. Like earlier we were talking about 2014. I was like, I feel like a lot of stuff came out in 2014. And I looked up like, oh crap, I didn't know this many things came out in 2014. There's a lot of big films that came out that year. So this one apparently didn't do as well in the box office as some of the other ones did, but it
did poorly enough for them to decide they needed to rebrand it.
Yeah.
Like halfway through its run.
Yeah. All in all, well executed, action movie. I guess, do we have any other comments on it?
Nope.
Cool. Truth. What are truths we can find in Edge of Tomorrow?
Be going better.
Yeah.
And life has value. You've got one shot. Treat it like you've got one shot.
Mm-hmm.
And it has value.
Also, sort of broad themes of humanity uniting for a common goal is you used to see that a lot more in films, especially sci-fi.
But nowadays it's like, we're all divided,
We're all so
and that's the
divided.
main conflict.
Yeah.
Division is everywhere, and it's like
Rebels.
It was a slightly different time.
It's fun, ever so slightly.
Yeah. Back when you could still be optimistic, I guess, in films. And I guess there's sort of the elements of not just broadly caring about humanity writ large, but actually caring about somebody else specifically, with his relationship with Rita, and then eventually his squad too.
Because over the course of several hundred potentially loops, he got to know them more and more as you peel layers back or have different interactions with them.
They're not just NPCs
that go about their scripted routine.
Mm.
There's whole people in there.
Yep. Oh crap! I missed the window. Now I have to wait for I just restart the day over again because I didn't.
I can't start this quest because it's past this time. Oh no!
Yeah.
I can't send the letter.
I forgot which way it was to that little alcove with the pond in it, so I could get that guy at the door while the letter's being delivered. Yeah.
But yeah,
I need to get all the
people
frogs.
exist outside yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like I had something I was going to say, then I said things and I forgot what I was saying. That happens sometimes.
Yeah. Suppose we sort of bled into goodness a little bit.
A little bit.
bit.
Yeah. So what is good in this film?
I guess
Coming to understand people in their in the fullness, in their depth.
yeah.
It's kind of a fascinating thing that the more you get to know someone, just the more deeply realized their humanity is for you.
Mm-hmm.
A greater connection you have to them. It's a strange phenomenon. If you kind of think about it, why does that happen? I think it's kind of the social nature with which we have been built. It's part of our createdness that we're made for a relationship, and the deeper that is, the more powerful the bond is between people who experience that.
Well, the less you know about somebody, the less reason you have to consider them.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to, it's kind of hard to consider a complete stranger as an entire separate person because there's no familiarity there. You don't know their surface, let alone their depths.
Right.
But like the person there's a lot of people who like the only person they really know is themselves, and therefore they're the only person who's actually a person to them in their perception. But like there's
their empathy sort of obscured, I guess.
Like you need to know someone to love someone. To know them is to love them, if you will. So like knowledge of another is so huge a part of human interaction and intimacy that knowledge in the biblical sense means knowledge in the biblical sense, if you catch my drift. But like,
And if you don't, look it up.
if you don't look it up, the Bible's a pretty good read. So like,
Although nowhere in the Bible does it say, and we mean no in the biblical sense.
and it's different depending on which translation you have it,
Yeah.
admittedly.
Yeah.
But the fact that they used that terminology to begin with to mean what it meant implies something about the relationship between human like knowledge and experience of one another and relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And over the course of the several loops, he got to know these people way more than he did at the beginning. At the beginning, they were just like they were a stereotypical ragtag group. And they ended that way a little
British
bit
for
because
some
we
reason.
were the audience who did get to know them.
Yep. Beauty. The special effects are very well done in this movie. The creatures are interesting. They're unique.
I feel like there's like a point in the mid 2010s where they stopped like caring about how good the CG looked. And this is like just before that curve.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's after the Avengers happened that people were like, you know what? Let's just kind of not render them with lighting that matches properly.
It just looks like digital noise. People don't care. Let's just move on.
But I feel like this was they were a little more reserved here and quite a bit more grounded.
They're cool
particularly
sci-fi creatures.
Oh, they're cool sci-fi creatures. They're all like tentacly, but like also tentacles formed in the form of
their movement is so like wacky and otherworldly and like kind of unnerving. Like they're like canine in their form, but also like with liquid limbs, kind of thing. Yeah.
And it's kind of
Sort
just
of like a hybrid dog and a starfish.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
spiky.
dog mollusks.
Yes.
Yeah. The dog Attack of the dog mollusks.
Shingeki
Fish.
no dog mollusk.
I think both of those words have different have equivalents in Japanese. But and then I liked the near future military tech designs.
Yeah, power suits and all
The
that.
power suits, the quadcopters that were like they looked like sized up drones.
Yeah.
So it was like
I
this.
think like the sword that Rita uses is like a helicopter blade that's been like chopped off or something. So
Something
that looks
like
kind
that.
of cool. Yeah,
They just made her look cool because she was supposed to look cool on a poster.
it's they did like the Call of Duty Advanced Warfare suits minus Kevin Spacey.
It was Kevin Spacey in Infinite Warfare.
Mm-hmm. No,
Advanced Warfare. And then it was Infinite Warfare after that.
with Jon Snow in it as the King of Mars.
Is
Anyway,
that a real game?
it was a real game.
I only thought it was interesting because you could wall run in it.
Yeah, that was a time.
Anyway,
But yeah, no, it's very cool. You don't see a whole lot of action films nowadays being like, what if we came up with kind of a cool concept and ran with it a little bit? It's just like, okay, what do we do that we know will make money?
that's kind of what the industry's become at this point.
Mm-hmm.
James and I were talking before the podcast and before Riley showed up about just
Almost every movie announcement is like something that's like a renewal of something that already exists.
whereas this is Groundhog's Day, but military.
Right.
But like,
it's not entirely derivative. It's like it's inspired by things that already exist, but it is
which everything's going to be
somewhat
inspired by
yes.
something.
Everything exists within a tradition.
Hollywood has done derivative stories for generations, but like
Since its inception, because every story is derivative of Greek myths and fairy tales.
Well, that and like back in the day, like people would only ever see a movie like when it was in theaters, and then after that, it would be, as far as they knew, gone forever. So I guess
Gone
it's
with the
easier
wind,
to
as it were.
repeat stories and scripts even. But anyway, so yeah, it manages. Yeah, it has inspiration and like homages to Groundhog Day and like its own unique execution of it.
So yeah, it's from a bygone era of Hollywood where you could have something with an
Bygone
original
era of
idea.
10 years ago.
What has my life come to?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's
Unity.
Edge
Yeah.
of Tomorrow.
Edgy Tomorrow. as
Edgy
we
Tomorrow.
Edgy Tomorrow.
Yep. But yeah, no, I guess
Living on the edge of tomorrow.
Yeah, you gotta live your life like it's your last shot.
Because you only got one shot.
Yeah.
And
Cream always rises to the top. I want you to know. Anyway.
But no, it's united in it's got a very simple premise, and it sticks to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Not a
very
whole lot of fluff in this movie.
not pretty lean. Yeah,
I like a good lean movie.
it cuts right to the chase, and what meat on its bones is there. It gets right to it.
Like there's a point in the story where they're like struggling and trying to like move around problems and things like that, but it handles that with a montage instead of forcing you to watch the whole thing.
Yeah, you get a montage of them failing, and then Rita shooting him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
It's like, well, time. This attempt's a bust. Time to SD and start over.
He's like, nope. I think I could go for a walk. You're not fooling anyone.
I'm feeling better. I'm not dead yet.
I'm not
Not
quite dead.
dead.
No. All right. Well,
that's about it.
yeah, I think that's a little simpler episode. If you have suggestions for future episodes, you can, I guess, talk to me on Twitter when I remember to use it.
Or we'll
give
feel more
suggestions.
compelled to respond to you if you do the email, which is
platingpapers@gmail.com. And yeah, obviously we're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. Share with your friends. We'll be back in the next episode when that happens, if we manage to find something to talk about next week. Because we watched Asteroid City and didn't know what to think of it. So we need some content ideas moving forward. Like we have things, it's just it takes forever to like watch an entire series.
we should start watching entire series over in the
Yeah.
Should
background.
begin those.
Should
ever.
begin those ever.
Yeah, that's the truth.
And I should get the PS4 out here for Riley to finish Bloodborne.
So yeah, we'll be working on stuff, and we'll, I guess, talk to you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.